Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
Your health starts from how your gut feel, and unless you're not giving the right kind of food to your gut, you're not going to be healthy. We started giving a few herbs to my father back in 2018, and within 6 months, he was normal. My background was किसको तो English भी बोलनी नहीं आती है, he just doing some business. That first piece of advice I got from my ex-boss was that रिधिमा अगर ईगो रखोगे ना तो कुछ नहीं हो पाएगा. So I think I took that very seriously.
We are sitting here on a bright Saturday morning. We are going through tough times. We are going through another lockdown scare. And I'm going to tell you a story of one such lockdown scare that almost, destroyed a business. But from there on, the business grew. And how? To talk about more of that success story, I have with me today Ridhima Arora. Ridhima Arora is an MBA graduate. And after her MBA, she worked for some time. And after that, something happened in her life that, changed the course of her life. And then she started her own company. Welcome, Ridhima, and thank you for joining in today for this conversation.
Thank you so much for calling.
Ridhima, to begin with, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where did this, the origin of Namiya food came from?
I was born and brought up in Jammu, and that's where I did most of my schooling. And then I went on to do, like a typical 90s kid, I went on to do a B.Tech and then an MBA. And then I went on to do a brand management job for about 4.5 years. Everything was just going, in the due course until this one incident where I was supposed to live in the hospital for a very long time, also because my father was very serious at that time. And, I was just waking up in the hospital, sleeping in the hospital, seeing everything that happens in the hospital. I think probably that was the first trigger that told me to look into health in a wider way, in a much deeper way that I looked at it. Your health starts from how your gut feel, and unless you're not giving the right kind of food to your gut, you're not going to be healthy. But there was no mention of the importance of foods in preventing and curing diseases in the hospital. It was a different ball game altogether. So I think I found that gap, back in 2018. And that's when I felt that, I had to start something in real foods, not the fad food industry, which is a lot to do with, low carb, low sugar, high protein, but actually has a lot of preservatives. So I thought that, why not do something much more interesting? Also, the fact that my father comes from an Ayurvedic background. We've been selling Ayurvedic herbs. We understand herbs as a family business. It's just that nobody really, thought about how could we sort of, amalgamate that with my understanding of branding and marketing and then sort of create a brand out of it. It's just that one thought that came in, 2018. I left my job and I started Namiya Food.
Was family business something that you always saw from the very beginning that led to your decision of, doing an MBA, or you thought that, nahi yaar, try karke dekhte hain. I think this is something where my interest lies and I will be doing better in this field.
When I did my B.Tech, I didn't have a lot of understanding of what I really wanted to do, also the fact that I was very bright while growing up. I was third in JNK and CBSE in 10th grade, and then I scored very well in my 12th also. So people expected me to do either a science or an engineering, For us, I think it was such a one-sided way of looking at things. There was nothing else that we wanted to explore that time, So B.Tech, obviously happened very, very gradually. It was just a byproduct of what I was doing and, I was supposed to do. And FMCG was something that, it's everybody's dream job, especially someone, who has interest in marketing. So I picked up a FMCG, job that I actually didn't pick up. Actually, it came to me. So I was selected for this placement, and had a beautiful journey. I think in my first corporate experience, also because I was working with the co-founders directly. At a very young age, I headed our digital department. So I think I got opportunities. I also worked for them, but at the end of it, it just blended well. It's very important to choose the right kind of leaders, to choose the right kind of people to work with, rather than the brand, rather than what company you're going. All these things don't matter, because at the end of the day, your growing age, or when you're young, is the time when you should pick up the right kind of skills from the right kind of people. Because now when I'm working for myself, doing my own thing, now I realize how those experiences combine together and help me make a lot of decisions that I do today. During my B.Tech time, although I was a scholar at my B.Tech, I was at scholarship, but I realized that irrespective of how many marks I'm getting, this is not something that I really want to do all my life.
Tell me a little bit about the ailments that your father was going through, and from his taking of medicines, how that helped you making that decision, and how did Namiya Food actually come into being?
While my father comes from an Ayurvedic background, we have a network of Hakims back in Jammu, also because of the nature of business my father has. Right. So I started going to them, started researching a whole lot about, Ayurvedic herbs. I obviously had a lot of wisdom sitting in my family that nobody was questioning or asking anything about. So I went to that. I did 2 courses in Ayurveda myself, just so that, I had clear understanding of what I was getting into. We started giving a few herbs to my father back in 2018. And within 6 months, he was normal. Not that the liver cirrhosis got reversed, but he was just stable. He was going back to his office, which is like a 9-hour shift, right? So he was going back to his business, managing everything. And touch wood, he's still stable. We understood that only changing lifestyle, only changing food, and adding a few Ayurvedic herbs could literally reverse so many complications. So I think that was the trigger for sure. And for the word Namiya, so I practice Nichiren Buddhism. There's a chant that we typically speak. It's called a Namyo Ho Renge Gyo. So Namiya is derived from Namyo.
What made you believe in the power of it, and why did you think in the first place that there is a business opportunity around it?
When I went out and started speaking to people as a part of my research, just understanding the market, and how much people understand what is the perception of Ayurveda. And initially, I used to do it myself with a couple of my teammates, and we used to go out to people and literally ask, what do you think? Will you try this? Or do you know about this? And there were certain herbs that, people were taking, people from villages and from towns in and around Jammu would take from us for a very long time. And, there are certain things that, villages and small towns understand and are still practicing. But it's just that the sense of these herbs, the sense of these, these nuskas of dadis and nanis have been lost in metros and tier 1s. Also because I think our lifestyles have changed so much. Right. I also come from a background where I didn't have a lot of time to make my breakfast. I didn't know what is a paneer dodi, or I didn't know what is a shatavari. So these are the kind of things that people didn't know. And I knew that this is something that is being used, that is being, that is benefiting people for such a long time. Also because I saw those people firsthand because of the kind of background that I have. I think I had seen the benefits firsthand, and right. There was no brainer there that I didn't want to do, or I had second thoughts. So I think I was quite clear that way.
Ridhima, moving forward, with your business, with Namiya Foods, it was new business last year. And right after starting your business last year, you were greeted with the worst possible time for a new business in the form of a lockdown. Did this phase crush your morale? Did you think that, why me?
I didn't think too much. I was so in the process. I was doing my thing. There was so many things that were happening. We were building our manufacturing that time. We had just set up our manufacturing that time when the pandemic hit. The first reaction was that, okay, we've just made so much inventory. Where do we sell now? Because in April, when the lockdown happened, we were not allowed to sell anything.
Right.
So obviously we were in a very, very dicey situation. But I think it also gave us a lot of understanding of what we were wanting to do going further. So obviously, from a logistics perspective, from a raw material management perspective, and from paying salaries to people right when you've started was definitely a pinch of the heart. But I think it also gave us enough time to understand that, okay, now if this has happened, what is the next thing that we can do? With every passing month, we were just becoming so relevant. So from our immunity booster latte that we thought is very important for immunity, just got match the vibe of the universe, because everybody was talking about immunity at that point of time. And I think it was more about communicating and reaching the right kind of customer. Yes, there was this momentary thought that, okay, maybe we've not started at the right time, but just when you think that things are not going right, I think everything just flows in the rightest way possible.
For a 25-year-old, how difficult was it to manage all this? Is it difficult till now for you?
If your own skin is attached to something, or your own money is already invested into it, right? And there are certain things that you don't understand. You're not thinking that, okay, I have not done this before.
Right.
The only thought that you have in your mind is, how do we get this done? And how do we get this done in the most right way and in the most quickest way? Because we need it at a certain point of time, So obviously, I don't understand everything. I don't know a lot of things. But when I know I have to get it done, I just get it done. But having said that, yes, there are so many things that I have understood over the job. I think finance was not my thing at all. And I still struggle with maintaining cash flows, but I'm just learning with each day.
You asking for your products to be on a particular platform. You repeatedly made calls to a particular company to make sure that your product is there, that is visible in their website. Can you take me through, the whole process of when you started, when you reached out to people with a very new product? Is there an ego that comes in when you start your own business, and when you go to these people and you think that, I have a fancy MBA degree with me?
So before I tell you my experiences, I very early on, I had just started up that time. And I went and met my ex-boss, who was also the founder of the company. And I told him, that time I was trying offline actually. And I was wanting to meet a distributor who was giving a lot of tantrums and, saying, I don't want to see you and things like that. And I said to him, I've been trying to reach out to him, but he's not just answering my calls. It's just not very unprofessional. Why am I supposed to even talk to him? So my background was kisko to English bhi bolne nahi aati hai, he's just doing some business. He's just why is he being just so snobbish? And that first piece of advice I got from my ex-boss was that, Ridhima, अगर ego रखोगे ना तो कुछ नहीं हो पाएगा. So I think I took that very seriously. And I think when it comes to business, I think if you know that this is what you want to do, you should leave everything else back. There are different ways of dealing with different people. And your objective should be clear in your head that this is what I'm wanting to do.
Right.
And whatever means and ways it takes to get that done, you should do that. Like I started this business in Jammu, where I was only born and brought up. I haven't lived in Jammu. There is a certain way of dealing with people, with your employees in Jammu, because it's a tier 2, people are not very professional, but there is a way you talk to them. So you have to learn the nuances of it, as in when you go to different cities, different cultures, different people, right? And yes, with that one platform, we had to be very persistent also, because we didn't have that kind of money to pay to them, So they were asking for an upfront money, in the name of marketing. Honestly, I come from a typical entrepreneurial family. I was not ready to pay that kind of money to them. So the only way I was left with was just, pursuing them in some way, to be persistent and try different ways of negotiating with them. So while I did negotiate on a little marginal level, I gave them a little more margin. I got a few things negotiated, but yes, I had to do a lot of calls. I had to be persistent. I had to be just there for about 8-9 months just so that we could be there. So I think you have to understand the nuances of what is going to work where.
Tell me a bit about your organization now. How many people are working in there, and what is the brand valuation of your company currently?
So I think right now we are about 26 people, right? While a lot of marketing and logistics is outsourced. Manufacturing is a little, heavy from people, from man-work perspective. So the revenue has been 1 crore and above. We've sold more than 40,000 units now in last 1 year, and I think there's a long way to go. I think we've just begun. There's a lot that we're looking out at in the next 3 years. I think for what we've planned right now.
What is that one message that you have for them, people who want to be successful just like you, but don't know how, and are confused about where to start? What is that advice that you want to give them?
My suggestion is take that time to decide what you really want to do. And until the time you don't understand that this is what I want to do, try different things and don't get attached to them. I always, go by this one rule that everything in life is pilot. Whatever you think is going to work for you, try it for 3 months. There is nothing that is, non-reversible. So until and unless you don't understand what you want to do, try out things.
Thank you very much, Ridhima, for sharing your story. It's indeed a very inspiring story that you have.
Thank you so much.